Hi everyone, and welcome to another video from Autism and ADHD. My name is Annie Clements and I'm the founder of the organisation. I'm here today to talk to you about the impacts of the weather and the moon on people with autism and ADHD. My reason for talking about it today is purely because here in the UK we have what's called a supermoon going on at the moment, and the impact of a full moon can have quite a significant change in how people manage. The moon has quite a lot of impact on most people, to be honest. We just don't talk about it as that because it feels a bit weird and goes into a bit werewolfy, when actually we don't fully understand what it is. We just know that it has some sort of impact. We know, for example, there are more babies that are born during a full moon. There are more calls to the Samaritans and services seeking for support around mental health during a full moon. So there's definitely something going on, and I know that for many families there is an experience just before a full moon and during a full moon where our children are very buzzy. They find it quite difficult to settle and sleep, and that's the same for adults as well. Certainly on a personal level with my ADHD, I can feel sometimes over this next few days the adrenaline almost going through my fingers and it feeling very bouncy, and I will equally struggle to have what would be considered as a good night's sleep. So obviously the moon is not something we can control, so it's something that we have to learn how to work with rather than suddenly make it disappear. So I will talk about all of that in a second, because there are some other things about the weather that it's relevant to bring in at this point as well. So for example, things like sunshine, and here certainly at the moment we've been blessed with some days of sunshine and blue skies. Some people visually can find the sun very difficult to manage. The brightness and the intensity of it can make it quite hard for going outside without some sort of sunglasses or hat to break that down, and equally for some, the sense of warmth on your skin and how that makes you feel, and maybe a fear of having had sunburn in the past and that causing a lot of pain will also make people very anxious potentially about going out into the sunshine as well. The rain can get caught up with noise. The way that I always remember one little boy that we worked with who really wouldn't want to go out in the rain because it changed the colour of his coat. So it went from light blue to dark blue when it got wet, and he hated it. He was really worried about what it was. He didn't understand it. So our strategy for that was to get a more of a plastic base coat that didn't change colour in the rain, but also to reassure him and be able to show him visually with pictures that his coat would go back to light blue once it had dried, and therefore it was fine. Feeling wet and having wet hair and water running down the back of your neck, if you've got sensory issues around that, then that can be extremely debilitating. Throw in thunder and lightning, oh my goodness. So that particular area of weather is obviously really significant. Snow, for example, when you go out into freshly fallen snow, it can be really bright. Skiers don't wear sunglasses for no good reason. So that brightness can be painful. The air quality changes and the sound changes. Snow can absorb certain sound, and so when you walk out it's just peaceful and very strange, almost like it's deadened noise in certain bits. And also when you walk on it, snow squeaks. That horrible sort of when you stand in quite deep snow, it can make a noise. So weather as a whole can, if depending on what your sensory issues are, can be quite distressing and overwhelming. And all of the things like moon and weather are things that we can't control. They're going to happen. So it's about us understanding that. And we always talk about things that we can't make go away or change. We need a strategy to manage. And so it goes back to our little man with the blue coat. He needed a strategy to manage being out in the rain that wasn't going to distress him, either by changing his coat, so that made that go away, or by showing him visually by taking photos about how your coat starts off as being light blue and then the water in it makes it go dark blue, but once it's dried it goes back to being light blue. And for him to have I need to remember that even though my coat changes colour in the wet, it will go back to its original colour when it goes dry. So help remind him of that. And it's the same with all of the things around sun, rain and snow. The moon is something to consider because it happens consistently. We know when it's coming. So there's an element of control there. We know when we're heading towards a full moon. In our house, my son and myself both find sleeping in the full moon quite a challenge. So we don't talk about sleep, we talk about rest. And we work with that rather than fight it. So certainly when Tom was a lot smaller than he is now, rather than keep going on, you need to go to sleep, you need to go to sleep, it doesn't help. In fact, it just makes you feel worse, because he's not going to sleep because he's being annoying. He's going to sleep because he's not able to sleep because of something that we can't control. So working with that, we would just rest, we'd read stories, we'd lay and watch a video, we'd work with it. Eventually he would drop off to sleep, and so do I, but it's not the same quality. But can you see the difference between trying to force ourselves into a situation where we're trying to manage something that we just can't control? We need strategy and working with it rather than fight it. Reduces a huge amount of anxiety around that and helps us feel much safer about going through that period of time when that's on. As we always say, excuse me, we need visual strategy. They need to see it, like our little boy with the coat. He needed to see pictures that when he came through the other side, it was all going to be okay. So have a think about that this week. Have a think about all the things at the moment, especially at the moment in the situation that we're in with lockdown and virus, all the things that we can't control, and work with the things that we can around how we're spending our time, the things that we can do, having our rhythm to our day, controlling the things that make us feel happy rather than constantly listening to everything that makes us feel really sad and anxious. So it's been a pleasure talking to you again. I hope the video has been really helpful for you. If you've got any questions, please leave them down below in the comments and we will get back to you and go through them with you. And don't forget, you can always connect with us on our website, which is www.autismandadhd.org, and sign up for newsletters and also speak to us through our contact page. Keep safe and we'll speak to you again next week.